You may begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacqueline McGowan, and I am a school nutrition consultant with the Office of School Nutrition at the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. I want to welcome you to the verification webinar, which is an in-depth look at the federal requirements to conduct a successful verification process from beginning to end. As you know, verification season will be starting very soon. It starts Tuesday, October the 1st, and this webinar is designed for the person conducting the verification process. Now, while we hope it is beneficial to all participants, we truly hope that the person that's going to do verification this year in the SFA is listening in to gain understanding and clarity on the process. Please remember that all the dates in this webinar are subject to change, and if they do change, we will notify you as quickly as possible, either through a blast email or the SN update. So make sure you are receiving the updates and that you review them when you see them. Just so you'll know, this webinar is being recorded. So we know that's oftentimes a question that we receive, but yes, it is being recorded. All right, some learning objectives. We're going to talk about key terms. We'll talk about what verification is. We'll go over the important dates, and then we'll go through the verification process itself, the initial verification, application selection procedures. Then we'll talk about how to qualify for an alternate sample size, confirmation reviews, how to notify the household, and then sources that you can receive for verification. And then we will go into households that reapply for program benefits, making sure you keep good records, verification for calls, and we'll close with common misunderstandings. All right, so let's get started. Just a few key terms that you will hear throughout this session. Direct verification is when you use records from public agencies to verify income and/or program participation. The state agency offers this as a part of the DCV module, so the individual who has access to the direct certification will also be able to do direct verification. And what you would do is just log into the school nutrition technology system under the application tab, go all the way to the bottom, and you'll see direct certification, and that's also where the DV module is located. Another term that you will hear is error prone, which are applications that are within $100 per month of the applicable income eligibility guideline. So, for example, if we're looking at the income eligibility guideline for 2024, 2025, a household of four within the monthly income of 3380. So if it falls within $100 of $3,380 for the free benefit, or if it falls within $100 of $4,810 for the reduced benefit, and this is for a house of four, then that's going to be error prone. And you're going to understand why this term is important as we go through the verification methods. And then lastly, random sampling is each application has an equal chance of being selected. So that also is another key term. Another key term that you will hear during verification is sample pool, and that is going to be the total number of applications that are approved as of October 1st. And then your sample size is going to be the number of applications that are subject to verification. So just remember these terms, and when you get the PowerPoint, you'll be able to see how these terms kind of mesh with the verification process. So, what is verification? Verification is a federal requirement in 7 CFR 245.6A. It is the confirmation of eligibility for free and reduced price meals under the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program. Please note it that we state it is for free and reduced price meal applications, so verification is not for applications that have been denied. Verification is only required when eligibility is determined through the application process, not for applications that were on DC conducted with an applicant assistance program or officials or agencies who documented other source categorical eligibility. Now, for detailed information on the verification process, then we refer you to the eligibility manual for school meals. We're still working off the one from July 2017. So if you do not have this hard copy book or if you don't have this saved, this is going to be an important document for you to have during the verification process. And you're going to look at section 6, pages 96 through 115. A lot of this webinar is pulled directly from that manual. So when you have questions, I would recommend you first go to the manual, read what it says, and then if you still have questions, then you're welcome to reach out to the state agency for clarification. Again, make sure you have a copy of this manual on your computer or on your desk so that you can reference it. I prefer the electronic copy, that way I can type in the word, the kind of the term that I'm looking for in the search engine and it takes you directly to it. But if you want to do the old school paper copy, that's fine as well. You just have to look a little bit more longer, a little longer to find the content that you're looking for. What must verification include? It must include either confirmation of income eligibility or confirmation that the child or any member of the household is receiving assistance under Food and Nutrition Services, which is formerly food stamps, um, Food Distribution Program on Indian Reservation, which is FDPIR, or Work First Cash Assistance, which is formerly known as TANF. Or you're looking at the child as other source categorically eligible, which means homeless, migrant, runaway, foster, or federally funded Even Start and Head Start programs. Verification may include confirmation of any other information on the application, such as household size. When is verification not required? Remember, it's not required for children that are certified under direct certification, and this is according to 7 CFR 245.6AC2, which indicates that verification again is not required for children who have been certified in the DC system. They are not required for children documented as eligible, migrant, runaway, homeless, children, foster children, and children enrolled in the federally funded Head Start. It's not required for children in RCCIs or residential child care institutions, except for applications that are approved for day students at the institution. It's not required for schools where FNS has approved special cash assistance, claims based on economic statistics regarding per capita income, such as in Puerto Rico or Virgin Islands, and then also it's not required for special milk program sponsors. Other places or other times when verification is not required, it's not required in schools with non-pricing programs. It's not required in LEAs where all schools participate in CEP or in provision 123, or charter schools that participate in CEP. Now, if you're LEA, you want to make sure you're 100% CEP. Then verification is not required for you. But if you do have some that receive applications, then those are the ones that you're going to pinpoint. And also, verification is not required in other FNS determined exemptions on a case-by-case basis. So let's look at these dates that we're going to be dealing with during verification. Again, it starts on October 1st. It ends on November the 15th. On November the 18th, which is a Monday, you're going to have the verification collection report open in the school nutrition technology system. On the 18th, you're also going to start tracking households that did not respond initially because you're going to have to report, potentially do a report for them in February of 2025. Also on November the 18th, which again is a Monday, you'll receive the verification survey that's going to be sent out. And the verification survey just simply says, yes, I completed verification, or no, I did not complete verification. The verification survey and the verification collection report are two different things. The verification collection report, again, is in the school nutrition technology system where you report your verification results. The survey is just something that we have to do to document that either you completed verification or you did not. December 13th, and I'm gonna go through these dates. I'm gonna go through them one more time, but December 13th is the final day to complete the verification collection report in the school nutrition technology system. And then in February, we're going to stop tracking those reapply, reapproved applications between November 16th and February 15th. And then you're gonna also have another survey to report those households. All right, so let's go through these dates again. And you may say, well, why are we going through the dates again? You'll find that the dates can oftentimes be findings or common misunderstandings. So that's why we take a little bit of time to go through them. All right, again, verification begins on Tuesday, October the 1st. Each SFA must verify a sample that is selected from all approved free and reduced applications, again, as of October 1st, which is a Tuesday. Remember, the confirmation process must take place before notification letters are distributed to the household, and we will discuss in detail what confirmation means to all SFAs in North Carolina. The verification process ends on November the 15th. So the process should end that day. Remember that once you finish verification, that doesn't mean you're done because you also have to do the reporting requirement. But this is the day that it ends. As the note says on this slide, if you know in advance that you're not going to meet that deadline, then please reach out to the state agency with a written request for an extension. And that we can, I do believe we can give up until it's December the 15th. If it's anything that's going to go beyond December 15th, then we have to receive approval from the Southeast Regional Office. All right, on Monday, November the 18th, three things will happen. A brief survey will be sent out to determine whether or not verification was completed. Also, it is the day that the verification report, actually it's two things, sorry. November 18th is also the date that the verification collection report is open to all SFAs. We recommend that since the process is going to be fresh in your mind on the 18th, that you go ahead and complete the report. That way you can go ahead and it's done. But if you need more time, then again, you'll find out in a couple of more slides when the report is going to close in the technology system. And that date is Friday, December 13th. So you want to make sure that you report all your verification, the whole process. You want to report it in the verification collection report, and you want to make sure that you do that before the deadline of December the 13th, because that's when it's going to close in the technology system. And remember, I mentioned that the process is over in November, but it's kind of not over because we have some reporting to do in February. So what you're going to do is for data that's collected through February 15th, it's going to be for households that did not respond before the November 15th deadline, but elected to reapply between November the 16th and February the 15th. So it's imperative that your SFA maintains tracking all households that did not respond by November 15th, but reapplied by February the 15th. And the reporting of this data is required by USDA. So we'll announce the collection method closer to the reporting deadline in an SN update. And normally we just do it through a survey. And it's basically numbers. We don't need a whole detailed information, but we do need you to track it so that you can provide that information in a survey. All right, so we're going to recap the dates one more time. Verification begins on Tuesday. Now, I know oftentimes it's been a couple of times over the last several years that October 1st fell on the weekend. Well, that's not the case this year. It falls on a Tuesday. So you want to make sure you begin the process on that day. It ends on November the 15th, but it's not over because on the 18th, we need you to report your results of verification and also respond to a survey that indicates that you did conduct verification in the time frame that has been provided to you. December 18th is when the verification collection report closes in the school nutrition technology system. And then you're going to track from November the 16th to February the 15th households that did not reply before the 15th, but reapplied after the 16th. You're going to keep up with those so that you can report that information on a survey that's provided on February the 19th. I would highly recommend that you kind of place these dates in a calendar. If you work off of like a wall calendar, put it on there, highlight it. If you work off a desk calendar, put it on there, highlight it. Or if you work more electronic, then put it in Outlook or Google Calendar, somewhere that it can pop up and let you know that there's something that needs to be completed as it relates to verification. All right, so the dates are gone, or we've gone over the dates. So let's talk about the initial verification process. The very first step of verification is establishing the sample pool. The sample pool uses the total number of approved applications on file as of October 1st of the current year. LEAs may choose not to count applications for students in split session kindergarten programs participating in the special MOOC program when determining your verification sample pool. The sample pool depends on the number of applications, paper or electronic, and it's not based on the number of children on those applications. It's based on the number of applications. And mixed household applications, which means there are other source categorical um, students on that application's income application, but also other source categorical applications are included in the sample pool. So that's what we consider to be a mixed household application. So that's how we establish the sample pool. Total number approved applications on file as of October 1st, and we're looking at applications, not children on the applications, but the applications themselves. How do I establish a sample size? After you have your sample pool, then the sample size is determined by doing a couple of things. One thing you're going to do is when you're doing your calculations, make sure you round up. For example, if we have 3,125 applications approved as of October 1st, we are going to multiply it by our multiplier, which is 3%. That equals 93.75. We would round up to 94 applications, and that's going to be my sample size. Okay, so my sample pool was 3,125. My sample size based off of my calculation is going to be 94 applications. If you have a lower number of applications due to being a smaller district or a charter school, let's say you have 25 applications and you multiply that times 3%, and you'll see in a couple of slides where I got my 3% from. But again, 25 applications times 3% equals 0.75. So I'm going to still round up because I have to verify at least one application. With the exception of verification for calls, you must verify the exact number required, not more, not less. So you wouldn't verify all applications. That's over verification. And you wouldn't just pick a number. I'm going to verify 5 applications when you should verify 10. That's under verification. So you want to make sure you do the exact number that is required. Because if you do more or less, then you will have a corrective action plan required. And just remember, we'll talk about this term a little bit later, but verification for cause is done in addition to the required sample size. An SFA may do verification for cause at any point in time during the school year, and make sure you document it because this information will be requested in the school nutrition technology system on the verification collection report. All right, so let's talk about application selection procedures. If you want to know which verification method should you use, then you should have received this information from your school nutrition consultant, and it would have been sometime in the spring or early summer, right before you started the annual agreement process. If you were not present during that time, or you're new, or you don't remember, then you can always go into the school nutrition technology system and look under, I do believe this is the SFA application. Scroll down to question 54, and it's going to tell you which method you should be using. Okay. So remember we were talking about sample size, sample pool, 3%. So this is how we're going to work this information in. There are 3 methods when you're doing verification. You have the standard method, you have alternate 1, and you have alternate 2. For the standard verification method, you're looking at the lesser of 3% of all applications approved as of October 1st. And for standard, you're looking at those error-prone applications. Now, you remember at the very beginning, we were talking about key terms and we talked about error-prone. It's applications that the income falls within the $100 of of the income eligibility guidelines. So these error-prone applications should, I would recommend, or we would recommend that you kind of mark those as you're doing applications. That way you don't have to go back through and look. But again, standard sample size looks at the lesser of 3% of all applications approved as of October 1st, and we're looking at error prone, or 3,000. So 3% or 3,000, whichever one is the lower number. All right. So for an example for standard, let's say we have 245 approved applications on file as of October 1st. We have 50 applications that are error prone because I was marking them at the beginning of the school year to make sure I know which ones I'm going to pull from when we get to verification. You would select 8 applications randomly from the 50 error prone applications. Where did I get 8? I multiplied 3% for standard times 245. That's the number of applications I had on file as of October 1st. That equals 7.35. I always round up, so the number of applications to verify is 8. Another example for standard, and this is, you'll understand why we have 2 examples for standard. We have 135 approved free and reduced applications on file as of October 1st. This time I only have 3 applications that make up the sample, the error-prone sample. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply still my 3% times the 135 free and reduced applications approved as of October 1st, and that equals 4.05. So I know that the number of applications that I have to verify equal 5. Unfortunately, I only have 3 applications that make up the error-prone sample. So what do I need to do? I need to, did I put it on this slide? Nope, I didn't. What I need to do is find 2 applications and select them randomly from my approved applications. So does that make sense? Let's say that again. 135 applications times 3% because I'm doing standard verification method. 3% times 135 equals 4.05. I always round up. So I have 3 applications that I know I can use because they're in the error prone area. And then I need 2 more. So I pick those randomly from my approved free and reduced applications as of October 1st. All right. The next method is alternate 1. We're still working with the 3%. But this time we're not looking at error-prone applications, we're just randomly selecting applications. So with alternate 1, we're verifying the lesser of 3% of all approved applications selected randomly as of October 1st, or 3,000 applications selected at random from all the applications approved as of October 1st. And we're still looking at the lesser of these 2 numbers. So for an example, we have 2001 approved free and reduced applications on file. We're going to multiply 3% times, oh, okay, look at just act like this information is correct. 3% times 2001. Don't check my math on this one, but just follow my example. 3% times 2000, and I have 5 on the slide, so let's just go at that. 3% times 2005 free and reduced applications on file, it equals 60.15. The number of applications that I need to verify is 61. And because this is alternate, I'm going to randomly choose 61 applications to verify for this particular sample size. All right, and the last example is alternate 2. So don't forget we have 3 methods: standard, alternate 1, alternate 2. This is the third method, alternate 2. So we're looking at the lesser of the sum of 1,000 applications approved as of October 1st, or 1% of all applications approved as of October 1st. You're going to take that number and then you're going to add it to the lesser of 500, or 0.5% of all applications approved as of October 1st that provided a case number. I'm sure you didn't realize that this was going to be so math intensive, but we just got to make sure we get the calculations right so that we verify the correct number of applications. So here is our example. The SFA has 1,500 approved free and reduced applications on file. Remember, this includes those with case numbers as it states all approved applications. So 1% of 1,500 would be 15, and we're going to select applications from error-prone applications, okay? So we're going to take those 15 applications, we're going to hold it in we're just going to hold that number, and then we're looking at 102 applications are approved using a case number. So 0.5% of 102 equals 0.51. We always round up. So we're going to take that 15 plus that 1, and we know that we have to verify 16 applications. So we just talked about this, but just as a reminder, how do you complete the sample size? For sample sizes based on error-prone applications, there may not be enough applications that meet that criteria. When this happens, the SFA must select at random additional approved applications to complete the required sample size. So if you go back to our example of standard, the second example, we only had 3 error-prone applications. So we had to select 2 more randomly. So that's what we mean by completing the sample size. In other situations, the number of error-prone applications may exceed the required sample size, and when this happens, the SFA must randomly select the required number of applications from all error-prone applications. So you may ask, how do I qualify for an alternate sample size? To be able to use the alternate sample size, the SFA must have either lowered their non-response rate or improve their non-response rate. And so we're looking at the previous year. For example, a non-response rate from the preceding school year of less than 20%. If you have 10 applications, 8 responded, then 20% is your non-response rate. And so what you're going to do is you're going to look at the verification collection report from the previous year to determine what your non-response rate is, and then you will know whether or not you qualify um, based off of either a lowered non-response rate or an improved non-response rate. All right, so let me give you all an example. Year 1, we have 21,000 children, and that is 6,000 applications. 180 applications are verified. Out of those 180 applications, 45 households did not respond, so our non-response rate is 25%. The next year, we have same number of children, same number of applications. We have 40 households that did not respond, and the non-response rate is now 22.2%. Because we reduced it by 10%, because we reduced it by 10%, then you qualify for alternate. Just remember that when we send out what your method is, you're going to either see standard or alternate. And then if you see alternate, then you choose between alternate 1 or alternate 2. Okay. All right, so before we have our samples pool, we have our sample size, we got our applications, we know that we're ready to really get this process going. But right before you contact the household, there are 2 things that you need to do. We do require confirmation reviews. We don't grant waivers for that in North Carolina. We want you to do the confirmation reviews. And then you also have the option to replace a certain number of applications. So right before you get excited that we're gonna finally get these letters sent out, then let's do one more thing, and then um, we can proceed with the verification process. You want to make sure your confirming official confirms that the eligibility status of application was approved correctly, and then you want to make sure that they initial assign the selected application prior to mailing the letter. If this process takes place at the beginning of the school year when the applications are being processed, it is still important for the confirmation official to initial assign the application or the batch file. And you want to make sure that this is someone other than the determining official. Also, something that we do in North Carolina is our second review of applications, which thankfully has been moved into the technology system. So when we get to February, you'll be reporting this in the technology system. We don't use the form anymore. It's so much easier to just put your information in and allow it to calculate it for you. But this is something that we do. This is required for all SFAs. So you want to make sure that you don't forget to look at the application one last time to ensure the eligibility determination is correct prior to sending the household the verification selection letter. So it's better to, make sure you check it before it goes out. You don't want it to go out and it's wrong, and then that starts a whole different thing. You want to make sure that you do your determining official, your confirming official, your second review of applications. Make sure that all of this is done before the letter goes out. If you need to replace applications, then you are welcome to do that. This process takes place before sending letters to the household, and you can of course, you determine that before you send it to the household. This is a good time to look to see if maybe a student has withdrawn from school. If the student has withdrawn, then the SFA should select an application to replace the withdrawn application with a like application, which means income with income, categorical with categorical. So if the question is, why would I replace the application? It may be because something that we found that happens is you don't hear back from a household. And then you look at the student record and see that the student has withdrawn. If that is the case, you're not going to receive a response anyway. So you can replace that application with a similar application. Again, it has to be income with income and categorical with or categorical with categorical. Let's say that this happens and there is 1 day left before verification ends. You find out on November 14th that the student has withdrawn. You reach out to the state agency for an extension and you verify another like application. And again, it has to be, you can only do 5%. So if you have 60 applications approved, you can replace up to 5%, which is 3 applications. And this is on a case by case basis, just depends on if you need this option. The verification selection letter is what's going to go to the household. And what it does, it lets the household know of the type of information that's acceptable to the SFA. We ask that you retain a copy of these letters in the verification file, as some software systems regenerate the letters with the date of regeneration, not the actual date the letter was mailed. All letters at this point, because we're about to go into October, should have been approved by the state agency. So the verification letters should contain the following elements: that the SFA has been selected for verification, the types of acceptable information that may be provided to confirm current income, such as pay stubs, award letters from assistance agencies for benefits, or even a support payment decrees from court. Also, it lets them know that the household may provide proof that a child or any household member is receiving benefits under the assistance program instead of providing income information, or that it confirms that a child is other source categorically eligible, that the documentation or income may be provided from any point in time between the month prior to application and the time that the household is required to provide income documentation. The letter also includes that when the date that information must be provided by, and that failure to do so will result in termination of benefits. Also provide a name of an LEA official who can answer questions and provide assistance. And also you want to make sure they have a no-cost telephone number so they can ask questions if needed. All right, so I've been talking for 35 minutes, so we're going to take a quick break. I don't want to lose everybody, so it's just going to be a 5-minute break, and then we'll start back up at 2:40. All right, so take a break, stretch, get some water. Please come back. We have about another roughly 30 minutes, and then we'll be at the end of this webinar. All right. It is 2:40, so I hope everybody was able to stretch and get a bottle of water or something to refresh you to make it through the rest of this webinar. Donna, keep saying mute. Do I need to mute myself?
You are not muted. You
Oh,
ready to go?
oh, okay. All right. Well, let's get started. All right. So we've talked about sample size, sample pool. We've sent out the letters, but some additional things that we need to be mindful of is once a school or SFA becomes aware of a language need, the school is responsible for ensuring the individual's application and other household materials such as the letter, instructions, notices, and verification materials are available in an understandable language. So simply offering the most common non-English language is not sufficient. LEAs may use the translated application materials available on the USDA FNS website to ensure that households comprised of LEP individuals, which is language limited English proficiency individuals will have access to free and reduced price application materials in a language they can understand. And if you have or need further understanding on that concept, then you can look at SP 37-2016 which is talks about meaningful access for persons with limited English proficiency in the school meals program, and it provides guidance and questions and answers. So sources of verification, so you've sent the letters out and now you're wondering what is acceptable to receive back from the household. So let's talk about sources for verification. Written evidence is the primary source for income verification, including WorkFirst TANF, FDPIR, other source categorical eligibility programs, and foster child households. Written evidence is most often pay stubs from employers, award letters from welfare departments, or governmental agencies. Written evidence needs to have the name of the household member, the amount of income received, frequency, and the date received. So a pay stub without a date is not acceptable. The SFA may request this information from the FNS WorkFirst, TANF, FDPIR agency, but still must notify the parent. Acceptable written evidence for children who are receiving benefits from an assistance program is an official letter or notice indicating that the child or any member is receiving benefits from that program. For example, it can be a notice of eligibility. For other source categorical eligibility programs, an official letter, notice, or a list from the appropriate state agency, from a social services agency or court system for foster children, or for Head Start, Even Start enrollees from the office or coordinator for those programs. The verifying official should examine the documents provided to ensure that the child for whom the application was made is part of a household currently participating in any of these programs noted or is a foster child. Please be reminded that electronic benefit transfer cards or EBT cards cannot be used to confirm eligibility in FNS and therefore cannot be used for categorical eligibility purposes. Also, a document from an assistance program that does not specify the certification period is not adequate for documentation. For example, the FNS identification card is not acceptable because it usually does not have an expiration date. Acceptable FNS TANF FDPIR would have the child's name listed, but again, an EBT card is not sufficient. A household that does not have satisfactory documentation from the assistance office, state or local agency, or other source categorical eligibility may request a signed, dated letter from these offices verifying that the child is part of a household currently receiving their benefits. Just make sure it's on letterhead and it documents all the required information. So if you look at this slide, it indicates it's what type of letter it is. It has the date. It has, if you look throughout it, it's on letterhead. It indicates the person's name, how often they're paid. If it has a program that is linked to, then that also is provided, and it is official document, not just somebody typed or wrote something on a piece of paper and turned it in as proof of income. You want to make sure, again, that you examine the document. And the only reason I say this twice is because I've seen some documents that was just, they were just questionable. So I would just recommend that the verifying official, again, examines the document to ensure that the child for whom the application was made is on the document and that it's an official document, not just something that somebody pulled together. As I mentioned before, if a household does not have satisfactory documentation from an assistance program, then they also have the opportunity to request a collateral contact, who is a person who is outside of the household, who is knowledgeable about the household's circumstances, and can confirm a household's income participation in an assistance program or other source categorical eligibility program. The verifying official should request a collateral contact only in cases when the household has not been able to provide adequate written documentation. The verifying official must give the household the opportunity to designate the collateral contact. However, the verifying official may select a collateral contact if the household fails to designate one or designates one who is unacceptable to the verifying official. In either case, no contact may be made without first notifying the household and obtaining its permission. A collateral contact may be written or oral and must be documented, dated, and initialed. The LEA will examine any written information provided by the collateral contact or evaluate any oral information. If the collateral contact is unwilling or unable to provide the requested information, the LEA must contact the household to complete the verification process. A household's eligibility may be confirmed through the use of information maintained by other government agencies to which the state agency, the LEA, or school has legal access. Such records are state records, and the release of information maintained by state employment offices is governed by state law. So we talked about the written evidence, we talked about documenting employment or participation in assistance programs. So let's talk about the acceptable time frame. So when you're receiving the documentation back, you want to make sure that it is within an acceptable time frame. It can be provided for any point in time between the month prior to the application and the time the household is required to provide income documentation. So basically, if an application was submitted on the first day of school, and let's say that was August 24th, then anytime between July 24th to around November 16th, income or other source categorical documentation may be accepted. When a household provides pay stubs, let's say that they are paid on a weekly basis, then they can submit one pay stub because that kind of gives you a good idea of how what their pay is on a weekly basis. If the household submits a pay stub that includes overtime, the determining official should work with the household to determine whether or not the overtime for the month being verified is representative of overtime received in other months. If the overtime is a one-time or sporadic source of income, income should be calculated based on the regular monthly income without overtime. So you want to look at the pay stub. If you see overtime indicated, then you want to kind of work with the household. Is this something that you get consistently, or is this something that's just like a one-time thing? And then once you receive their answer, make sure that you document it, and then you can determine whether or not the income should be calculated based on the monthly income without overtime or if it should be included. If a household is selected for regular verification or verification for cause, and the application indicates zero income, then the LEA must request an explanation of how living expenses are met and may request additional written documentation or collateral contacts. Now, this is for the verification process. If you're processing free and reduced applications at the beginning of the school year and it indicates zero, the assumption based off the eligibility manual for school meals is that there is no money coming in, and you take that at face value. If you pull that same application for verification, then you want an explanation provided. So that can be ask how are living expenses being met. This may also be a time that a collateral contact can kind of document or write in or confirm or verify how the household is meeting their living expenses. At the beginning, at towards the beginning of the presentation, we did talk about direct verification. We recommend that you, when we get to this time, when you get the application, go ahead and use the direct verification system to see if the household is already in there. If you can directly verify, then you don't have to go through the rest of the process as far as sending um, the letters to the household. Because if you catch it before it goes out, then there's and you it's in the system, then there's no need to send it out. And again, direct verification is conducted prior to sending out verification selection letters to the household. If information obtained through DV or of an application for meal benefits indicates a child is participating in an eligible assistance program, then again, remember, no additional verification is required. The eligibility status of the child or children listed on the application is considered verified at that point if you verify it through the DV system. And if you need to read more information on this, you can find that at 7 CFR 245.6AG2. So when is verification considered complete for direct verification applications? Applications selected for verification are verified through the school nutrition technology system. And if it is an exact match, which means it's a free application and they qualify for free benefits in the direct verification system, or it may be, let's say it's a reduced application and they verify for reduced meal benefits in the DV system, if it is an exact match, that means that verification is complete for that application. Now, let's say that the original determination on the application was reduced benefits, but when you go into the DV system, they qualify for free benefits, then verification is considered complete once you send the letter to the household letting them know that their benefits are going to be increased. And lastly, if its original determination is free, but when you look in the DV system, it's reduced, then verification is going to be completed once you go through the verification activities. All right, so we are going through the rest of the verification process. When is a follow-up required? If there is no response from the household, then a follow-up is required. This is how you get your non-response rate down. If you receive insufficient evidence from the household, then a follow-up is required. We want to recommend strongly that you document any attempts that are made to the household, whether it's in writing, by email. If it's a telephone call, then you want to make sure you document who you spoke to, what the summary of the conversation, and the date. And you may deem it necessary to make additional attempts to lower your non-response rate. So ensure that adequate language assistance is provided and that note that failure to respond to the request will result in termination of benefits. So you must make a follow-up attempt in the following instances. There's no response, the response is insufficient, there is no designation of collateral contacts, or there is a collateral contact, but they're unwilling to provide the information. If after at least one follow-up attempt, the household responds and provides everything that you need, then verification is considered complete for this household. If there is no benefit change, or when the household is notified that the benefits will be increased, or when the notice of adverse action is sent. If the household does not respond, verification is considered complete when the notice of adverse action is sent. A LEA is unable to continue its verification I'm sorry, if LEA is unable to continue its verification activities because the household fails to provide adequate written evidence or knowledgeable collateral contacts, then verification is considered complete once you send the notice of adverse action. And this, I just read this one. So this is, again, this is when it's considered complete. Once, if you haven't got what you need and they don't want to give you what you need and they won't say anything, they won't respond, then your note, you send that letter of adverse action, and then verification is complete for that household. So let's go through this one more time. Let's say that the household submits adequate evidence. This is how much we make. This is what program we participate in. Then verification is complete for that household. Or let's say they submit adequate evidence of income, which indicates that the children should receive a greater or lesser level. That means that it's going to either be increased or decreased. So the verification is complete once you send the notification letter that if the benefits are being decreased to the point of denial, then you would send the adverse action letter. But if they're being increased or decreased from free to reduce or reduced to free, then you want to make sure that once you send the letter that indicates that your benefits are going to be increased or decreased, then verification is completed at that time. Let's say the household indicates that it no longer wishes to receive free or reduced price meals, then verification is complete once you send that adverse action letter. Or another instance can be the application provides case numbers and it's determined that no one is participating in an assistance program, then verification is complete when the notice of adverse action is sent. We talked a couple of slides back, we talked about the effective time of change. If there's going to be an increase in benefits, then you want to send the letter immediately. It's effective immediately and implement it no later than 3 operating days. And once you want to I'm sorry, you want to make it effective immediately and implement it no later than 3 operating days. If you're going to take them from, let's say, from free to reduce, that means you're lowering the benefit, then you want to give them 10 calendar days so that they have time to prepare to send money in. Okay. So higher benefits, which means it's going to be an increase, maybe from reduced to free, 3 days. If it's going to be a decrease in benefits, let's say from free to reduced or reduced to paid, then you want to give them 10 days to just make preparation to send monies in if needed. We talked about the adverse action letter, which is the final step of the well, for this part, it's the final step of the verification process. This is sent to the household and it lets them know that their benefits are being reduced or terminated. And again, it must give them 10 calendar days written notice. If a family responds on November the 15th and the benefit is lower, then you have to give them 10 days notice, again, calendar days. The notice of adverse action may be sent via the postal service or to the email address of a parent or guardian. The LEA SFA cannot notify the household of adverse action by phone. The first day of the adverse action notice period is the day the notice is sent. The notice must advise the household of the following: that there's a change in benefits, the reason for the change, that an appeal must be filed within 10 calendar days, um, to ensure continued benefits, and that it ensures continued benefits while awaiting a hearing and decision. You want to provide instructions on how to appeal, and you can find that information in the eligibility manual for school meals. You want to let them know that they can reapply again at any time during the school year, and that households that are terminated because no member is receiving benefits from the assistance program may submit an application containing household names and income information and provide written evidence of current household information. So all of this is in the letters that were approved during the annual agreement process, but we just want to make sure you understand when we say adverse action letter, what letter we're talking about. And these are other things that will be in the notice of adverse action. I just read these actually, but you just want to make sure that you do give them the opportunity to know that if they need to reapply anytime during the school year, they may do that as well. All right. Just note that households affected by a reduction or termination of benefits may reapply for benefits again at any time during the school year. However, if benefits to a household have been terminated and the household reapplies in the same school year, the household is required to submit income documentation or proof of participation in assistance program at the time of reapplication, and these are not considered new applications. Just to make sure that you're keeping up with the documentation, it's very important to document the verification process. I've heard of some very thorough verification process, just folders and everything's labeled, and it's just amazing how easy it is to follow the process. So you want to make sure if the state agency comes on site that we can follow your verification process from beginning to end. You don't have to kind of guess what happened or try to remember because you have it documented. So you should maintain the verification plan. Which method are you using? What was your sample pool? The number, what was your sample size? Did you replace any files, any applications? If so, make sure it's documented. And then you also want to document the confirmation. In addition to that, you want to make sure you have your selection letters, any second, third, fourth, fifth attempts, whether written or verbal, the verification letters, result letters, and then you're welcome to, if you desire to print the verification collection report once you get to that part of verification. You want to keep all relevant correspondence between the household selected for verification and the LEA. All documents submitted by the household or reproductions of those documents. In cases where the actual documents or photocopies cannot be kept, the verifying official must make a written record of the documents submitted by the household, including the type of document, whether it's a wage stub or a letter from an employer, income shown on the document, the time period of the income, the date of the document, any changes in eligibility as a result of verification procedures, the reason for the changes, and the date and change that was made. All right, I seem to be I'm kind of ahead of myself, but let's see. Document the reason for the change. Just make sure you document everything. If we have to recall things that happen a month prior, sometimes it doesn't turn out well, but if you document everything, make your notes, make sure someone else can follow the process and understand what happened and why, then it'll be easier if we ever have to come on site for a technical assistance or administrative review. We'll be able to follow the process. So just make sure you keep the records in a way that we can follow the process, or somebody else can come behind you and know what happened if you're not there to explain it. Just one thing, after trying this method of matching, and if a student resides in a household which receives FNS or TANF, the benefits may be extended. So if you have questions about extended benefits, then you can refer to the USDA policy memo SP 51-2014. And remember, it is the responsibility of the SFA to maintain documentation to support extending any benefits. So again, we shouldn't have to figure it out. If you go ahead and document it, then it's easy to explain if ever there is a question. And at the beginning, we talked very briefly about verification for calls. Based off of regulations at 7 CFR 245 6A C7 requires LEAs to verify any questionable application, including on a case-by-case basis, verifying any application for calls when the LEA is aware of additional income or persons in the household. Verification for calls is done in addition to the required sample size. An SFA may do verification for calls at any point in time during the school year. The SFA has an obligation to verify all questionable applications. This process.
Okay, everyone.
And did I?
Jacqueline, we lost you for about 20 seconds.
Okay,
Can you start with the previous slide and go forward? I'm sorry.
it's fine. When we go back.
Yeah, just maybe one slide. There you go.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. My electricity blinked off real quick. Just for verification and extended benefits, if you have questions about that process, then you can look at policy memo SP 51-2014. Remember that extended benefits has to be documented by the SFA. So I'm going to repeat this again. If you are extending benefits, then you want to make sure you document it in a manner that someone can follow the process and make the connection, even if you're not there to explain it. Okay. All right, verification for calls. We talked about it briefly at the beginning of the presentation. Regulations at 7 CFR 245.6A C7 require LEAs to verify any questionable application, including on a case-by-case basis, verifying any application for calls when the LEA is aware of additional income or persons in the household. Verification for calls is done in addition to the required sample size, and an SFA may do verification for calls at any time during the school year. The SFA has an obligation to verify all questionable applications. This process cannot delay the approval of the application if the application is complete. And once the determination is made, the SFA may begin verification. To verify an approved application for calls, a verification letter explaining that the household must submit verification of eligibility information with the application for continued eligibility must be sent to the household, and this may be done at the same time that the notification letter is sent to the household. If the household does not respond by the date set by the SFA, an adverse letter must be sent. Once verification information is requested, the verification process must be completed. In other words, you can't start the process and then change your mind and decide not to finish it. One thing with verification for calls, if it is a school nutrition employee or an employee of your school or SFA, then we do recommend if you have questions as far as any questions that are related to the legal part of it, that you check with your legal staff before proceeding. And if you, of course, if you have questions, you can reach out to the state agency. Now, we did talk about the verification collection report, which is where you're going to report all of this information on starting on November the 18th. You want to make sure that if a child is directly certified as Medicaid free on the DC list, that the child and all applicable children in the household are included in the verification collection report. And I know that when we get to the verification collection report, because it's been a while since we only do it annually. If you have questions about what goes in the field, please reach out to the state agency, to your consultant, or to myself to determine what information goes in what field, or look back at your report from the previous year. You want to make sure that your student data doesn't include the Medicaid reduced students. You want to include the number of students directly certified with Medicaid for free meals, along with other direct certification. The application. So you'll see those headings. Make sure you put your information in the correct headings. It's kind of hard to see it on here, but when you get close to doing the report, when you go in, just make sure that you put the information in the correct fields. You're going to have a place to record the verification for calls, so don't mix that information in with your verification information at the top of the report. And also do not add to the number in the verification sample size. So do not put your verification for calls in with your sample size. It's going to cause an error. So you're going to report that at the bottom of the report. And if you have any questions about the verification for calls process, you can look at page 99 in the eligibility manual for school meals. And this is what I was talking about. Verification for calls must not be used to automatically verify the households of all school district employees whose children are certified for free or reduced price meals. You want to make sure that you're not just saying, "Well, I think they make too much money." That's not how this process works. You want to have a reasonable um, a reasonable reason to question an application. And I hope that makes sense. I hope you all understand what I'm saying. You can identify, you can use available LEA salary information to identify questionable applications and then conduct verification for calls on those questionable applications. But again, you have to have some type of knowledge that this application is not is not accurately reporting the information as it should. LEAs can use verification for calls to review approved applications for free or reduced price meals when known or available information indicates school district employees may have misrepresented their income. So it's not I think I heard, but it has to be known information or available information. And again, I mentioned this 2 slides up, but we recommend that an LEA consult with legal counsel in establishing the parameters of verification for calls for school district employees. And USDA supports use of verification for calls where appropriate as a method for SFAs to address integrity concerns. So as we wrap up this presentation, we're going to just go over some of the common misunderstandings, some of the findings possibly that we've found when going on site, just so you'll know what not to do. The first thing is it has been common or it has happened where the verification process did not start or end on time. This year, 24-25, we are actually starting on the actual date, which is October 1st, and we're ending on November 15th because both of these dates fall during the week. Another common misunderstanding is the SFA uses the incorrect verification method. So I would recommend that before you start the process on Tuesday, that you go into the technology system to determine which method are you supposed to use. And if you see it or you don't see it or you're unsure, please reach out to your consultant or to myself so that we can make sure that you have the correct method. Another common misunderstanding is that the SFA does not understand the sample size, or maybe they use technology and the technology was incorrect. So it's always okay to use an old school calculator and pen and paper, pencil and paper, and figure it out handwritten to make sure that you're doing the correct sample size. This kind of alludes to what I just said. The software did not select the correct number of applications for the sample size. So you just want to make sure you just do a check, a mental check, a written check to make sure that the software, what it says in the software, is accurate based off of your sample pool, your sample size, and your verification method. Another common misunderstanding is the verification software is not compliant. Or another one could be the sample size was not rounded up, therefore there were not enough applications verified. So I can't say this enough. Check behind your information, check behind your software. It's not, it's not questioning anybody. It's just making sure that you're verifying the correct number of applications. Another common misunderstanding is that the confirmation process did not take place. Another one is an application was pulled for directly certified students. We do not verify directly certified applications, so you want to move that application into an inactive file. And another misunderstanding is only one attempt it was made to collect the verification information. So if you have if you had a high non-response rate last year and maybe you contacted once or twice, then maybe this year you contact 3 or 4 times. You want to make sure that however many times you contact them that you document it, but you want to make sure that you get some type of response. Even if the response is, I'm not going to give you what you asked for, stop contacting me. That is a response. So you want to document that as such and then move forward with the process. Additional misunderstandings, documentation was not maintained. You said you contacted them, but we have no proof because it's not documented. So just document everything. A student withdraws during the verification process, so the process is not completed. Don't forget, if you find out that a student has withdrawn on November the 14th, reach out to the state agency for additional time. Replace it with a like application and verify that application. Another misunderstanding is that households that reapply, they must provide another application, and with that application there has to be a current income or proof of participation in an assistance program. It's not a new application, but when they give you that application, because it's not like you're going to give them their application back, but when they give you an application, it goes with the previously submitted. Make sure they submit it with an income, proof of income, or proof of an assistance program. Another common misunderstanding is there is not accurate record keeping. So there's no documents, there's no we don't selection letters are in the file, it's just empty file folders. So you want to make sure that you keep proper and accurate records. I want to thank you for hanging in there with me for this webinar. That concludes um, the verification webinar for the 24-25 school year. If you have any questions, then we remind you that you're to reach out to your area consultant, your zone consultant, your school nutrition consultant if you have questions, or you can also reach out to myself. My name is Jacqueline McGowan, and this is my email address and my telephone number. Unfortunately, I don't have access to the questions because I don't want to press on something and then not be able to get back. But I am going to ask Donna if she can provide instructions on the evaluation. I know we have a storm coming this way, y'all, so I don't really want to hold you all on a webinar. What I will do is if there were questions, I will get them from Donna and I will respond to you directly. And that way, for those who need to kind of get in the car and get home, you can go ahead and do that without remaining on the webinar. So I'm going to switch it to Donna and ask if she can provide information on the evaluation, and then we'll get ready to close out.
Sounds good. We only had two questions, so that'll be fine. So everyone, as you can see, there is a link on the screen and there's a QR code so that you can take a brief, very brief evaluation. And once you complete that evaluation, you should receive your certificate of completion, or excuse me, of attendance in your email. Keep in mind that if you enter your email in the evaluation incorrectly, you won't receive it right away. So just double check, make sure the email is correct, make sure there's no extra dots or extra spaces or missing letters or what have you. And so we're going to leave this up on the screen for a few minutes, and I'm watching to see uh, if the evaluations are completed. But yeah, just go ahead and click on, use your phone to take a photo of that QR code and complete that very brief evaluation, and you should get your certificate momentarily. And I'll have this information posted on the website by next week, probably by tomorrow. So if you don't, if you have to leave and you don't have opportunity to do this today, we'll have it available for you very soon via the website. So we're just going to hang out just for a minute and let you all get that information. If anyone needs the link to the website, excuse me, to the evaluation, I'm going to put that in the chat. Let me pull that really quickly.
And for those who are asking, a recording will be provided. It has been recorded, so we will provide it to you.
I have put the link into the evaluation in the chat if anyone needs to use that. Oh, okay. I see that we have several coming in very quickly.
While y'all are filling out the evaluations, I do want to say I appreciate your participation in this webinar. If you have any questions, please let us know, and please be safe out there over the coming days with the storm coming through.
In addition, if anyone fills out the evaluation and for some reason you don't receive your certificate in your email within the next few minutes after you complete it, just send me an email. Send me an email because I have a copy of it and I can send it to you. It may be tomorrow before I do that because I'm going to hit the road after this is over. And I think that's Lakeithan Williams. Yes, we will provide you all the PowerPoint. SFA agreement number. Fonda, what school system are you with? Winston-Salem Charter School, Crossnor. I would have to look up that number. Jacqueline, does that ring a bell to you right off the top?
It's Crossdoor Academy.
It's Winston-Salem Charter School and then Crossnor.
Oh, I don't think she would have a SFA number if she's not a participant in the school
Okay.
nutrition program.
Oh, she may not be in a participant. Okay. Fonda, in that instance, if you all are not hmm,
Can you just put 000?
yeah, just put 4 zeros in that field for now. Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy.
Trying to log in.
I'm looking for my map so I can pull that really quickly. Everyone, once you have completed your evaluation, you're welcome to log off of the presentation. We're just holding it open for anybody that needs access to the QR code or the link. But if you have completed it and you've received your certificate, we thank you for attending and you're welcome to log off. Paul R. Brown is 09A. Thank you, Dana. Okay, it's been a few minutes. We still have a couple of evaluations coming in, but I think everybody's gotten information by now. Do I need to go back? I already don't worry about it. It's fine. As long as you we have your name, as long as you get your certificate, that's the important thing. So Jacqueline, are you ready to close out?
I am. Thank you for your
Okay.
help today. Drive safe. Y'all have a good afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.